Hey, David Bruce here with an episode of Chordplay, and this is the Chords of Scorpions. And of course, we're going to be talking about the very famous, hard rock and melodic metal band from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And they've definitely slowed down in recent years. But Michael Schenker actually, was touring earlier this year. So, what a phenomenal, legendary band. You've got both Schenker brothers, that performed in Scorpions, Michael and Rudolph. And Rudolph's phenomenal too. He's kind of the forgotten Schenker brother, but they're both exceptional guitarists, great songwriters, great showmen, and everything. Matthias Jabs, of course, came in. Of course, Uli Jon Roth, which we just featured him in a 3-for-all. So the Scorpions definitely have this pedigree of all these phenomenal, great European guitarists. I'm going to go ahead and start this lesson because if I start talking about Uli Jon Roth and Michael Schenker, I'll never get started. So let's just go ahead and dive in. After I did the Uli Jon Roth 3-for-all, I had questions about the lick that I showed, and I referred to the fact that that song is basically flirting with the Phrygian tonality. It kind of moves between B Phrygian and B Phrygian dominant, and I had a few people that asked questions about that, and I thought, well, what better way to break it down than to actually showcase the song and kind of talk about the chords and what's happening there. So the first thing we have to do is break down B Phrygian first. And that would look like this. And there you can see we've got B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. And that signature flat 2, which is that C note, that gives it that really kind of telltale Phrygian flavor. Very exotic and dark. Think of flamenco music and exotic styles of music. And then if we convert that to Phrygian dominant, all we're going to do is raise the third from D to D sharp, and that's going to change and alter the sound of the scale. So one note has changed, but that moves Phrygian to Phrygian dominant, which is a mode from harmonic minor. And we've talked about that briefly in other episodes, here on this channel. But that's mainly what's happening, is he's moving between, targeting a D, and then sometimes he targets a D sharp. And that's kind of shifting from Phrygian to Phrygian dominant. Now, as far as the single note riff that opens, Sails of Charon, that is kind of flirting with B Phrygian and Phrygian dominant as well. And it's mainly when he targets this D sharp right here. It just kind of is introduced, abruptly. But it's something like this. And you can see right there he targeted, D natural. So that's Phrygian. There when he does that, then he suddenly shifted to Phrygian dominant, so he's flirting with that D to D sharp kind of transition there. And he's doing it right before your eyes. It's really out in the open and obvious there in that riff, but a lot of people, if you don't know what you're looking at, you may not recognize that that note. You might think, oh, it's just a passing tone, or it's a weird note. And it's like, no, he's expertly, channeling, a different mode or a different scale. But in the chord progression that follows that, you've got that C to B, D to C tag. And then I'm hearing octave octaves right there. I've seen it written before with chords, but I think Uli's actually just playing this. And then he moves from octaves, and that was just moving from C to B. And then he's doing partial chords, and this is actually a really good study in partial chords and chord voicings too, because he's playing a partial C to a partial B. And there you can see we've got this G, C, and E. When it moves back a half step, we've got F sharp, B, and D sharp. So now when these chords are introduced, he's shifting back to that Phrygian dominant tonality. And he does the same thing up here. He's up, kind of in a higher position, and here's C, kind of a C over E technically, and then a B over D sharp once again. And then he's basically moving up again. There's another C to a B. That'd be like a C over G and a B over F sharp. And the other shape he used right there, that's kind of a C, kind of C over G technically. So that's interesting. It's interesting to see all those chords and play right there. He's kind of moving between different positions and different voicings of those chords, but that's really cool. And it's totally outlining Phrygian and Phrygian dominant. The next example comes from the song Lovin' You Sunday Morning, which is from the Love Drive album. The one with the kind of Spinal Tap crazy, album cover with the bubblegum boob or whatever that was supposed to be. But Rudolph Schenker, wrote this, so I'm pretty sure he wrote the, wrote the riff too. But we're kind of doing a D over F sharp here, and he's spelling it out, and then it moves to an A flat 5 to an A5 power chord. And then there's a series of chords, like an A5 power chord like this, kind of a D sus4 over A to D over A to A. So it's like this. See in the beginning right there, we've got that partial, D over F sharp. And then right there, you can see we're almost doing like George Lynch chords, with that flat 5, which George Lynch probably stole a lot of his chord ideas from Scorpions. Just my own kind of conspiracy theory, but it's very possible. Because George definitely spent a lot of time playing those with Dokken. But here we are, with Scorpions in 1979. So. Scorpions are definitely well known for these kind of dreamy and dark and sad, slower songs and ballads. And they'd have these kind of clean, intros and outros and interludes. And this is the song Holiday, which is from Blackout. And I've always liked this song. And part of it is the chord progression. It's beautiful. It's got this nice kind of ringing, sustained, melodic sound. And it's moving from D minor to a D minor over C, and then a B flat major 7. And then it's an A sus4 sus2 to an A5, like that. And there you can see we're just picking through those chords. And then you're going to add that C note, and change that D minor to a D minor over C. And then it changes to a B flat major 7. And there's where that, A sus4 sus2 comes in. And it's a nice, simple progression, but as you'll see, Scorpions are really good at creating these kind of basic, chord parts and guitar parts. But in their songs, it sounds magical. It's like, oh my gosh, that's really all that song needs. It's just this kind of simple, arpeggiated chord pattern. So here's another version of this kind of basic, guitar part, but it sounds magical. When you hear it, it's like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. And this is the song Coming Home, which is from, Love at First Sting. And I honestly think this is my favorite Scorpion song. I love Coming Home. Like when I hear it, it's like a 5-minute song. The first 2 minutes is all mellow and really slow and dreamy. And then the last 3 minutes, it just starts rocking, and melts your face. But I like that. That one song kind of showcases, the dynamic that existed in Scorpions. And this song's interesting because we're basically moving between a C sus2 to C major, and then an A sus4 to A major. So diatonically, like in a major key, those two chords aren't supposed to go together. If you have C major, you're supposed to pair that with A minor, in a diatonic world, or if you remain in the same key. But changing, that little, sus2 to, C major, and then pairing that with A sus4 and A major, those two chords kind of react to each other differently. It's almost like pairing, G major and E major together, because those two chords, in a diatonic key or a diatonic world, aren't supposed to go together. And that's kind of what's happening here with, C major and A major. So it's really slow. We've got this. Then it moves to a D minor, and they're basically targeting, sus4 and the sus2. And after that D minor movement, it just goes back to that A sus4 and A major. But that's a very interesting chord progression, and it's very simple, just basic open position chords. But when you put all of it together, and then of course Klaus, comes in and starts singing, that song just takes you somewhere. It takes you on a holiday. Last example here is from Still Lovin' You, which is also from Love at First Sting, and I really like this song too. I love the chords. The chords are beautiful. So we're starting with a G minor over D. So just think of a D minor, that you have an open position. Move that up to where your index finger is on the 6th fret, and then you're playing, G minor over D. And then it's going to move over where you've got an F root, so that'd be a G minor 7 over F. And then E flat major 7, and then D7. So once again, G minor over D, G minor 7 over F, E flat major 7 to D7. And we're picking through it like this. And that would be guitar 1, and I'm not really sure if that's Rudolph or Matthias, but one of the two is playing that part. And then I have a, TC Electronic Ditto looper that I've set up here, and I've already recorded that guitar part. So that was guitar 1, and then technically this would be guitar 2. It's beautiful the way that's put together, because you've got the original guitar part, and then the second guitar part we're technically doing G minor, and then a G minor 7, and then E flat major 7, but it's like this. And that's where you hear that little hammer-on pull-off come in. Like that. And then that E flat major 7 again. And then D7. And whether you're looping the chords or you're playing it with another guitarist, when you put all that together, that's really cool. It's really, really cool. Good stuff. All right, that's going to wrap this look at the Chords of the Scorpions. And of course, you know, I'm definitely a big fan, and they're a worldwide, you know, known band. Definitely very popular in Germany, but still very popular in America too. And just a phenomenal, you know, group of musicians. You know, great songs, great albums, you know, killer tours. Their live performances are legendary. So anyway, leave some feedback and some comments. Please subscribe to Late Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.